right, well, that brings us to the last agenda item, which I think is why everyone's here. And that is to have a report out and recommendation from the working group that's been assigned to explore the possibility of a name change at our airport. So I just wanted to set the context up for everyone on this. In June of 2016, every single person in our community was reminded of the extraordinary popularity and indeed the global iconic status of our fellow citizen, Muhammad Ali. For days, the eyes of the world were upon us as we all celebrated the life and legacy of the champ. In the aftermath of this extraordinary event, it was logical that the community would begin to ask the question, is there a way that we can both honor Ali and indeed benefit from the extraordinary awareness and popularity of this global figure? There was dialogue first in the community, then in the press, and then in the mayor's office, and eventually among our board members here at the airport. And the question was, what would it say about us? What would it say about our community if we named our airport, our front door to the community, in honor of this iconic man? So the decision was made in November of 2017 to seriously consider the question. An airport committee was formed and chaired by Dale Bowden, who we'll be hearing from in a minute. Numerous meetings were held for over a year to quietly and objectively consider the question.
Thank you. I really appreciate the work of the committee and everybody that's been involved with this. This is an incredible opportunity for us, so I've got a few prepared remarks. Well, as we said when the champ passed away, Muhammad Ali belonged to the world, but he only had one hometown. Unfortunately, that's our great city here of Louisville. And Muhammad became one of the most well-known people ever to walk the face of the earth, which is incredible when you think about that. And he's left a legacy of humanitarianism, of athleticism that has literally inspired billions of people. When PBS recently announced that famed filmmaker Ken Burns will be producing a 4-hour documentary on Muhammad's life, Burns described Muhammad as, quote, maybe the most iconic figure of the 20th century. He arrived at exactly the right moment amidst the tumult and upheaval of the 1960s, and he shaped his times with his powerful voice, his mesmerizing presence, and achievements in the ring. So I think it's time that we, as a city, further champion the champ's legacy, and the airport renaming could be a wonderful next step. It signals to people the world over that we proudly honor and celebrate this global humanitarian icon and, incredibly, our fellow Louisvillian. And this is not just an airport initiative. It's one piece of a much broader community effort to share and celebrate Muhammad's Louisville's ties. As the city of Ali's birth and the place that throughout his life he proclaimed as the greatest city in the world, it's our obligation and our opportunity to showcase the many stories and complexities that made up the man known as the greatest of all time, self-proclaimed, and others as well. And research shows us that Muhammad Ali has enormous positive name recognition, far more than our city, our name of Louisville, Kentucky. So even as we honor and celebrate him, we will also positively boost our city's global identity. Muhammad loved this city, and he was never shy about bragging on us, so we should certainly never be shy about bragging on him and that he's part of us. Championing the champ is consistent with the work that we're doing with the Brookings Institution on identifying beneficial aspects to grow Louisville's global identity as well. Louisville Tourism confirms that the city stands to reap economic benefits by boosting Ali-related tourism, much as the city has done in establishing Bourbonism as a global tourist experience. So shortly, Metro government will convene a work group to explore other ideas for building on the Louisville Ali connection. Initial ideas range from building on existing events like the I Am Ali Festival and the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Awards, to establishing an even greater connection between Ali and the work that we're doing to accelerate achievement for young men and boys of color. Other ideas include a trail of historical markers to commemorate important sites in his life, and establishing Muhammad Ali boxing academies for youth development, where we focus on athleticism while we also work to instill the champ's values of confidence, conviction, dedication, giving, respect, and spirituality. These values also complement the work we do in our city around the value of compassion. So in closing, let's flash back to that week in early June of 2016, when, with the eyes of the world affixed here on our city, our entire community came together to embrace our native son, a man who was one of us, yet also a global icon. More than 1 billion people watched his memorial when we celebrated not only the life of Muhammad Ali, but for that brief moment, young and old, near and far, recognized and celebrated the potential for greatness in each and every one of us. So may the addition of Muhammad Ali's name to Louisville International Airport serve as a rallying cry to help lift up our city and inspire people all over the world. With these thoughts in mind, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion.
Please.
Two parts. To honor the legacy of Muhammad Ali, Louisville's native son, I hereby move that the Louisville Regional Airport Authority rename the airport the Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. And two, as part of this motion, I also move that the board gives the staff the authority to enter and execute all agreements, obtain all approvals, and perform any actions necessary to effectuate this outcome.
Very good. Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. Any discussion? Any questions? Okay. Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to vote present, not voting.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, the motion carries, and we are going to change the name of the airport in honor of Muhammad Ali. Thank you all very much. Maybe just by way of some general comments, I mean, obviously, we couldn't be more excited about this. This is a historic moment in the history of our airport to name it in honor of arguably one of the most consequential citizens of the world in the 20th century. World famous, certainly much better known than our own city. And it was fascinating. The research showed just how positive the associations are with Muhammad. And we recognize that, I think, by naming the airport, which of course is our front door to our community, after the champ, that it would really signal clearly to the world that we're a progressive city, we're multicultural, we're inclusive, and we are a community of the globe. And we really want to enhance our visibility and positioning, not only in the United States, but around the world. And we couldn't think of a better way to do it than to do this. So we're super excited about it. As you all heard, our committee was very thoughtful in their deliberations, and we're obviously excited about the announcement. So glad you all are all here, and maybe without further ado, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to you to say a few things.
Well, again, I'm really proud of the Airports Board for taking this action. When you think about who we are as a city and what we're made of and where we're going, we couldn't be more blessed to have Muhammad Ali as one of our citizens here. And we wanted to proudly shout that to the world. And we all know that if Muhammad was with us here today, he would be shouting to the world. He would be proclaiming this as the greatest airport of all time and having a really good time with this. So we're just very grateful that Muhammad is here, that Lonnie Ali was an important part of this decision as well. Lonnie's in your all's press statement, I believe. Is that right? And couldn't be here today, but she'll be in town toward the end of the month. So This is a way for us to give a great big bear hug to Muhammad Ali and the Ali family, while at the same time sending a strong message to the world, and then getting ready for the love that comes back from this. When Muhammad passed in June of 2016, there were thousands of people that requested press credentials from all over the world. And we all knew Muhammad was a big deal, and the world knew that as well, but the world had never seen anything like that before, when over 1 billion people tuned in to watch his memorial service. So for us not to continue to champion Muhammad's legacy and what he stood for, I think is disrespectful to him and squandering opportunity for him and for our city as well. And what people saw was so much more than the Sports Illustrated sportsman of the 20th century. The great thing about Muhammad was, if you got to know him later in his life, he used his athletic prowess and the platform that created as one of his magic tricks, and he loved to do magic tricks. And the trick was he transitioned from the greatest sportsman of all time to the greatest humanitarian of all time, United Nations World Messenger of Peace, for example. And there's just nobody else in kind of recorded history, other than folks that we deify, that's had this type of impact on so many people. And so to have that association with our city and the city that he loved, and then be able to welcome people when they fly in here as the front door to the city and say, welcome to the hometown of Muhammad Ali, and explain all of that and the humanitarian aspects about that. And his wish, which was everybody be the greatest that they could be, are simple life messages, but strong life messages that oftentimes get too lost in the dialogue of the times, especially these times. They're divisive, and the more that we can do our part to bring people together around greatness and interdependence and interconnection and his spiritual values and our city value of compassion, I think is an opportunity that the board saw and really said, let's go ahead and rename our airport in a super positive way. So again, thank you to our chairman, Jim Welch, and Dale Bowden and his committee for taking this wise action, and to the entire board here today.
Had this ever been considered while Mr. Ali was still living?
You want me to speak to that? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
But not to our knowledge, right?
Yeah,
Not to our knowledge. Several of us have been on the board for quite some time, and no, it had not been.
What does it say that his name tests better than that of the city?
Well, I think it says a couple things, but one is, think about the time that Muhammad grew up in. I mean, this was the 1960s. It was before the internet. The world had never seen somebody like him before. Somebody that, came out and extolled himself as the greatest, was fearless in terms of saying what he wanted to say to the media as a young black man, that broke the mold for all athletes, but especially African-American athletes. And then as he proclaimed his independence and his freedom as a man, as he converted to Islam, he was literally shaking up the world, and he was shaking up the white paternal establishment in the United States of America as well. And he was willing to pay the price for it. We all know that he spent time in prison at the peak of his athletic career, costing himself just not millions of prize-fighting money, but potentially his whole career. But then the Supreme Court of the United States justified his actions. He was released from prison and began his boxing career. So I think so many people, identify with him in terms of wishing they had the courage that he had to proclaim who they are and what they want to be. But then the respect that they have for him, the determination that he had, that he said so many times later in his life, of putting the road work in to become the greatest. Because he would always say, and if you were at an event with him, and then they would say, Muhammad Ali, the prettiest, the greatest, the strongest. And he would always lip road work. He was the greatest because he put in the road work, in boxing terms, that is, he worked out before everybody else. And he said, I was the greatest because I got out of bed, did my first workout before everybody else got out of bed. That's why I was the greatest. I worked out more than everybody. I did the road work. So it's all these things that appeal to people today, and not just the 1960s. So he became a global fixture. Boxing was much more popular then than it is now. how they took their bouts to the Thrilla in Manila or the Rumble in the jungle in Africa. Nobody had ever really moved around globally like that with the panache that Muhammad had. And then later in life, he didn't just trail off as an ex-athlete. He transitioned to this platform as a humanitarian, and always in a very high-profile way. And then as his legacy was cemented and enshrined here at the Ali Center, much to people's surprise, when they go there, they find out that, yes, this is somewhat of a boxing museum, but it's just as much a history museum of the United States, and specifically, it's a museum about the life values that he stood for, of spirituality, confidence, giving, respect, etc. So that's his kind of final message, is appealing to the goodness within people, and I think that just resonates with people in terms of who they hope they can be and who they hope they can be associated with.
I'm surprised we haven't mentioned that his birthday's tomorrow.
We're going to do that tomorrow. We have the State of the City address tomorrow at the Ali Center, and we'll certainly pull those two together. So it's a nice birthday gift for him.
It was in my script, I forgot it.
What's the timeline for actually officially changing the name when we start seeing signs on the outside and things like that?
Dan,
But-
is it?
Yeah, I just,
I mean, this is going to take some time, I mean, that's one thing we should make sure people know.
Yes, obviously we got to do some branding and we want to make sure it works right. We got to coordinate the communication plan, but I think the idea is to have this kind of the most significant kickoff during the
I Am Ali Festival,
Yeah, the I Am Ali
which
Festival.
is the first week of June. Dan said he wanted the deadline.
I want a deadline. Keep me honest.
Yeah, the I Am Ali Festival, we're in the third year of that, so that's kind of a week where we bring the globe together to kind of relive Ali's legacies. And when you think about all the chapters in this guy's life, from athletics to poetry to film to art, he's so multi-dimensional. You know, he's really, you know, he was the first rapper, so to speak, right? He was the first trash talker. All these things that you see athletes emulate right now, he was the guy. You know, he was Colin Kaepernick way before Colin Kaepernick took the knee, right? He took the knee in his own way, and a lot of these guys now are just coming on behind him, expressing themselves in different ways. So all of that and much more is celebrated during the I Am Ali Festival Week. Jeannie Kanke's here from the Ali Center. Would you like to say anything, Jeannie?
Just that we're very happy, and I think the timing of this, right before Muhammad's birthday, is such a gift to the community and to the world, and I just want to thank the airport board and the mayor and all you've done to support this. Bonnie will be so thrilled.
Great. Great. Anything else?
Ms. Jackson to share a few more thoughts, if you would.
There will not be any statues associated with that. There's some religious complications there. Nikki?
Thank you. Hi. What question? Do you have a question specifically?
It's been how long of a process, how long have you been a part of this process and looking into the name change?
Since its inception, I believe it was in November 2017. I've been a part of the committee since the beginning. Very proud to serve on the committee, by the way, as you might imagine.
And going into that process, what did you learn? What did you come away with?
Well, I mean, a couple things. So let's talk about coming immediately into the process. It was very clear to me that there was some community clamoring, some community interest about how we might go about exploring, continuing to celebrate Muhammad Ali in really meaningful, tangible ways in the city. And so we saw some op-eds toward that end, and we saw some petitions that were being circulated toward that end. And then, of course, the mayor, in his infinite wisdom, really thought it would make sense for us to kind of convene and really explore this. So I so appreciate the diligence and the rigor that our committee went through. We talked to folks at the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We talked to folks at the Muhammad Ali Center. We had these wonderful survey results that really helped us round out and contextualize what we were exploring. And it just, in the end, it just makes perfect sense. It makes absolute perfect sense. And I think it validated for many of us on the committee, certainly validated for me, the importance of this particular name change, particularly in this dispensation in time.
Okay.
Can you elaborate the contract or deal that must be finalized with the Ali Enterprises? What does that entail? Does that entail any payment from the airport, or is that just a strictly legal agreement? Can you detail that a little bit?
It's strictly legal agreement.
ABG and you just need approval from?
No, the terms really just detail, when we can, how we can use the name. They've granted us a license to utilize the name. There's no fee associated with it. They've granted, the right to utilize the license for the likeness as well, that we can incorporate should we need to. They've been very kind and generous in making this happen, and so it was a very, very clean agreement.
Does it have any kind of date when it will end, or would it be in perpetuity?
So Mohammed's name and likeness are owned by the Authentic Brand Group, ABG. ABG manages many of the most well-known global icons, that Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley, Muhammad Ali. Naturally, they're pleased with this development. And they also believe that Ali tourism can grow significantly in the city. So when you talk to them about what they've done with Elvis and Graceland, for example, and the kind of increases they've seen down there, they also believe we have the opportunity for that here in our city. So they're going to be a great partner in this effort.
We've got time for one more question.
Will the shutdown have any effect on getting approval from the FAA?
No, it is really more of a notification process. They have a review. This review can take up to 18 months, but generally they need a notification, and I'm not sure somebody will be there to open the mail in the next day or two, but when they get there, it will be fairly quick.
But you guys are going ahead and moving forward with marketing and all of that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Somebody else wants to? Okay. All right, well, thanks, everybody,
Thank
for
you
coming
all
out
so
and
much.
covering this. Please spread the word.